Hey guys, welcome back to the compound. Today we'll be tackling another dino from the Jurassic World Dominion line, and as you can tell, the dino on the chopping block today is this very stylized and cartoony Moros Intrepidus. Much like the Scorpiovenator that I recently did, I believe with a little paint and some rule of cool, we can make this very cartoony dino look better than whatever is going on with its dinosaur train deco it currently has right now. As I like to do with most of the things that I repaint, I like to study the overall appearance of the sculpt to get a better understanding of the personality of the figure, which will in turn help inspire the kind of repaint that I want to do. So to me, he has this very psychotic, kind of crazy looking attitude, almost like this sort of scavenger vibe. So the one bird that comes to mind when I think of a scavenger is the turkey vulture. A very iconic bird with its dark body and like red fleshy head. So I think with the feathers on this guy and that super crazy looking head sculpt, the turkey vulture will be the perfect deco for him. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to keep things pretty simple and do all of this by hand. So if you're painting along, there will be no airbrush required for this repaint. So enough chit chat, let's grab some brushes and get started. So before we start slinging paint, we need to prep a few spots on the figure a little bit just to ensure no paint rubs off. The limbs on this figure will be fine since they're all just standard joints and they only move forwards and backwards, but the ones that they use for the neck will need to be sanded down. So I like to shave away the plastic around the neck sleeve on the inside with an X-Acto knife and then take some fine grit sandpaper and sand the inside of the neck area smooth, so when I rotate the neck there's no plastic on plastic rubbing. The next thing that will require some trimming is the joint that allows the neck to move up and down. For this one, you just need to make sure that you carefully sand down the joint so it sits below the skin. The best tool for the job is a fine tip sanding bit attachment for a Dremel tool to get a majority of that material down, and then you can smooth it out with some fine grit sandpaper until most of the rough areas are smooth. It's hard to get it perfectly smooth, so just clean it up the best that you can and make sure that the neck clears that joint when you move it up and down. Since the body color on this guy is going to be black, I'll be using black acrylic ink to blend in this articulation joint. And because I sanded the joint down and roughed up the surface, that opens up the pores of the plastic and lets that ink soak down in, essentially staining the joint black and allowing it to blend in with the rest of the body color. So I'll do a couple of applications, drying them in between until I achieve the right shade of black. So with that done, now I'm going to hot glue the Moros down to my custom holder so I can freely paint him without having to touch or hold the figure. This little device makes painting smaller figures like this way easier. I recommend making one for your toolbox. It's just a slab of craft wood hot glued down to an old medicine bottle so I can hold it. I wrap the platform in blue painter's tape so the hot glue is easy to peel off once I'm done. The first color to go down will be a light flesh tone. I'll thin it down in my wet palette and apply a couple of thin coats. I'll then give the face a light red wash for warmth and then dry brush the highlights up with a slightly lighter shade of that flesh tone color. The colors I'm using for this are beige mixed with scarlet red. It's the same colors that I use for when I paint the inside of a dinosaur's mouth. Now I'll grab some black and start to carefully block in the feathers along the back of the head. And then I'll take a small dry brush and blend that black into the flesh tone to create a gradual transition. Light passes with the dry brush is the key here to achieve this effect. And while I've got the black out, I'll go ahead and hit the eyes real quick and get those blocked in. Now I'm going to grab some Citadel Flesh Shade and wash it into the recessed areas on the face. This will help bring out all of that nicely sculpted detail that the figure has. With the wash applied, now I'll hit the teeth real quick with some off-white, and to give them a sort of gritty, kind of grimy effect, I'm going to give them a light coat of a yellow ochre wash. With all of that done, I'll jump back over to the eyes and I'll throw down a small drop of red, followed by an even smaller drop of yellow, and finished off with a ridiculously tiny black dot. How I managed to do this is beyond me, but I got it in one go and he's starting to look super creepy now. So the head is done, and now I'll knock out the rest of the body, and that is pretty much the same process and colors I used on the head. I'll first block in all of the parts that I want to be flesh tone, and once that's done, I'll grab some super glue and apply a couple of thin coats to the bottom of the feet and claws. That way it just protects it from having any paint rubs later on when I'm taking pictures of it. So now I've got a figure stand hot glued down to my holder and a peg hole drilled in the bottom of the foot so I can pop him on and off for when I need to access the underside of the dino. And now I'll jump back in with the black paint and I'll start to cut in all of the black areas, and then I'll grab my small dry brush and blend the black into the flesh tone parts, trying to hit all the raised areas and leaving that flesh color down in the recesses. Again, this blending works best with a very dry brush and multiple light passes. You really want to gradually build up that fade instead of going all in at once. With all of the black done, I'll grab the Citadel Flesh Wash again and throw that wash all over the legs and the tail section, making sure to get it into all of the little nooks and crannies. And once that's dried, I'll jump in with some beige and carefully paint the claws, and then give them a light wash in transparent burnt umber. Now to finish things off, I wanted to give him a little pop of color against his black feathers, so I'm going to lightly dry brush the very tips of the feathers with scarlet red, and then I'll add another pass with some color shift maroon just to add a little flare of color to the overall deco. I'll seal him up with a little Liquitex matte varnish, and this bad boy is done. So of course, it's always fun to see before and after shots of these dinos, and with just a little paint and some Rule of Cool, he looks 100% better now. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and you've learned something that you can apply to your repaint game at home. If you decide to give this one a shot, remember to tag me over on Instagram at the Jurassic Park Compound, because I always love to see the stuff that you guys can come up with. For more Jurassic related content, you know where to find me. Links will be in the description box below. You guys take care, and I'll see you around the compound.